3 months ago, I was sleeping under a bridge in Denver, eating from dumpsters, convinced I'd die forgotten. My name is Thomas Wade, and until recently, I thought I knew exactly who I was. A 50-year-old logistics manager who'd worked his whole life building something solid, something real. My ex-wife Bridget had married my billionaire boss, Roland Hutchinson, and together they destroyed everything I'd built over 25 years. Fired me on a Tuesday morning with a smile, took my house, my savings, my reputation, even turned my own kids against me. But when I finally hit rock bottom and checked into that homeless shelter on February 18th, something happened that changed everything. The intake worker, a woman named Joyce Paulson, she looked at my ID, then at my face, then back at the ID. Her hands started trembling. "Your name is Thomas Wade?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Born March 15th, 1974 in Millbrook, Pennsylvania?" When I nodded, she stood up so fast her chair crashed into the wall behind her. She walked to the door, turned the lock, and pulled down the blinds. Other homeless men in the waiting room started muttering, confused. Joyce pulled out her phone with shaking fingers and made a call that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my life. "This is intake station 12, she said, her eyes never leaving my face. "Authorization code 77 Alpha 9. We've found him. Yes, I'm certain. Thomas Wade just walked through our door." She listened for a moment. Then her face went even paler. "Understood. Locking down now." She hung up and sat back down across from me, pulling a manila folder from a locked drawer. The label on it made no sense. Testament Program, Subject 7, Presumed Deceased. She opened it, and the first thing I saw was a photograph of an infant, maybe 3 months old. The baby had a birthmark on his left shoulder, exactly like mine, shaped like a crescent moon. "Mr. Wade," Joyce said, her voice steady, but her eyes filled with something between fear and amazement. "We've been searching for you for 30 years. According to every government database, every record we have, you're not supposed to exist. You died in a laboratory fire in 1977 when you were 3 years old." I laughed, thinking this had to be some mistake, some confusion with another Thomas Wade, but then she showed me the next document. A birth certificate, but not mine. The name read Michael Kessler, and the parents listed weren't Ruth and Kenneth Wade who raised me in Pennsylvania. The mother's name was Dr. Diana Kessler, described as a biochemist at a facility called Testament Research Institute. The father's name was redacted with thick black ink. "This is insane," I told her. "I'm nobody special. I manage warehouse inventory. I coordinate shipping routes. My wife left me for my boss, and now I'm homeless. You've got the wrong person." Joyce shook her head slowly. "Mr. Wade, in the next 10 minutes, federal agents are going to walk through that door. They've been waiting 3 decades for this moment. Some of them want to protect you. Others might want you dead. But before they get here, you need to understand something crucial. Your birth mother didn't die in an accident. She was murdered trying to protect you from people who wanted to use you as a weapon. And the man who destroyed your life, Roland Hutchinson, he's been searching for you longer than you can imagine." That's when I realized my entire life had been a lie, starting with my own name. The homeless man who'd walked into Mercy House Shelter was about to discover he was worth more than Roland Hutchinson's entire fortune, but for reasons that would terrify any normal person. My DNA, my blood, even my saliva contained secrets that governments would kill for. And I'd been hiding in plain sight for 47 years, until poverty and desperation drove me right into the hands of people who'd been watching and waiting. The door to the intake room suddenly had 3 sharp knocks. Joyce looked at me with urgent eyes. "Mr. Wade, whatever happens next, remember this. Your mother died to give you a choice. Now you're going to have to make another one. But first, you need to hear the truth about who you really are." I wasn't always sleeping under bridges and eating from dumpsters. Just 6 months ago, I was Thomas Wade, regional logistics manager at Hutchinson Industries, pulling in $78,000 a year with full benefits and a company car. I'd worked my way up from the warehouse floor, starting as a supervisor when I was 25, learning every route, every supplier, every detail of the distribution network that kept Roland Hutchinson's empire running smooth as clockwork. My life was built on routine and reliability. Every morning at 5 a.m., my alarm would go off in our 3-bedroom house in Highlands Ranch. I'd make coffee in the kitchen Bridget had renovated 2 years earlier, scramble some eggs, and check the overnight reports from our distribution centers. Bridget would come down around 6, kiss me on the cheek, and we'd talk about our kids over breakfast. Meredith had just finished her nursing degree at Colorado State and was working at Presbyterian Hospital. Bradley was 19, halfway through his electrician apprenticeship, already making good money doing residential work on weekends. 25 years of marriage. That's what I thought we had. Sure, things had cooled off between us over the years, but I figured that was normal. We'd become partners more than lovers, managing bills, coordinating schedules, planning for retirement. Bridget had started working out more, buying new clothes, getting her hair done every 2 weeks instead of monthly. I was happy she was taking care of herself. I even encouraged it, told her she looked great, meant every word. The truth was, she'd been having an affair with Roland Hutchinson for 2 years. My boss, the man who signed my paychecks, who'd shaken my hand at company Christmas parties and complimented my efficiency reports, had been sleeping with my wife in hotel rooms paid for with the company credit card. The same company credit card I'd been denied when I requested one for legitimate business travel. Roland Hutchinson was 62 years old, worth $3.8 billion from defense contracts and international shipping. He had silver hair, a permanent tan from his place in Aspen, and a smile that never reached his eyes. His first wife had died of cancer 10 years ago, and since then, he'd been through a string of women half his age. Apparently, Bridget caught his attention at a company fundraiser where spouses were invited. She told me later that's when it started, him approaching her at the bar while I was giving a presentation about quarterly efficiency improvements. The divorce blindsided me on a Monday morning in August. I came home from work to find Bridget's lawyer sitting in my living room with papers already drawn up. "Mr. Wade," he said, with this practiced sympathy that made me want to punch him, "Mrs. Wade believes it's best if you both move forward separately. She's requesting the house, both vehicles, and appropriate spousal support given your income disparity." "What income disparity?" I asked, genuinely confused. "She works part-time at the library." That's when Bridget walked in, wouldn't even look me in the eye. "I haven't been happy for years, Thomas. You're married to your job. You don't even see me anymore. I need someone who appreciates me." I tried to fight it, hired my own lawyer with my 401k money, but Bridget's legal team, paid for by Roland, though I didn't know it then, painted me as a neglectful workaholic who'd emotionally abandoned his family. They had receipts showing I'd missed 3 of Bradley's football games senior year because of inventory emergencies. They had testimony from Bridget's friends about how lonely she was, how I never took her anywhere nice, how I'd forgotten our anniversary 2 years running. The judge gave her everything: the house, both cars, 60% of our savings, and $500 a month in alimony for 3 years. I moved into Extended Stay America off Interstate 25, told myself it was temporary while I figured things out. The next day, Roland called me into his office. He was sitting behind his massive mahogany desk, the one with the view of the entire city, and Bridget was there, examining her fresh manicure like this was just another Tuesday. "Tom," Roland said, not even pretending to be uncomfortable, "we need to talk about restructuring. Your position is being eliminated effective immediately. Security will escort you to clean out your desk. Your final check includes 2 weeks severance, which I think is more than generous." "You're firing me?" I couldn't process what was happening. "I've been here 25 years. I designed your entire regional distribution network." Roland leaned back in his chair, fingers pressed together like he was about to explain something to a child. "The company is moving in a new direction. Besides, this is probably for the best. Fresh start for everyone, wouldn't you say? Bridget finally looked at me then, and there was nothing in her eyes. No guilt, no sadness, not even pity. Just a cold satisfaction, like she'd won a game I didn't know we were playing. Security walked me out of Hutchinson Industries with a cardboard box containing 25 years of my life reduced to a coffee mug, some family photos, and a stress ball shaped like a globe. My keycard was deactivated before I reached the parking lot. My company car had to be returned within 24 hours. The security guard, Marcus, who I'd known for 15 years, and whose son I'd helped get a warehouse job, couldn't even look me in the eye as he watched me load my box into my personal vehicle for the last time. The extended stay America became my base while I tried to find work. I was 50 years old with decades of experience, excellent references from everyone except my most recent employer, and a stellar track record of improving efficiency by 40% everywhere I'd worked. Should have been easy, right? But Roland Hutchinson's reach was longer than I'd imagined. Every interview went great until they checked references. Then, suddenly, the position was filled, or they'd decided to promote internally, or the budget had been cut. My brother Dennis let me crash on his couch when I couldn't afford the hotel anymore. Dennis was 47, worked construction, lived in a one-bedroom apartment in Aurora that smelled like cigarettes and disappointment. "Tommy, this is temporary," he kept saying. "You'll bounce back. Guys like you always do." But after 3 weeks of me coming home drunk at 2 in the morning, after I threw up on his carpet and got into a screaming match with his neighbor, Dennis had enough. "You gotta go, man. I'm sorry, but you're spiraling, and I can't watch it." My mother, Ruth Wade, was 81 years old, living in Mountain View Senior Care on Social Security, and what little Dad had left her when he died 5 years ago. When I told her what happened, she cried on the phone. "Tommy, come stay with me," she begged. But we both knew her facility didn't allow long-term guests, and I wasn't about to burden her with my problems. She sent me $300 from her savings, money she needed for her medications. I sent it back, she sent it again, I kept it and bought whiskey. My Uncle Gerald, Dad's younger brother, tried to help too. 73 years old, retired postal worker living on a fixed income, and he still wired me $500 with a note that said, Kenneth would want me to help his boy. That money lasted 4 days. I don't even remember what I spent it on. Just that I woke up behind a liquor store with empty bottles around me and my wallet gone. But the worst betrayal came from my children. Bridget had gotten to them first, told them I'd been embezzling from the company. That's why Roland had to fire me. She showed them falsified documents, bank statements that had been doctored, emails that were never sent. Meredith, my baby girl who I'd taught to ride a bike, who I'd walked down the aisle just 2 years ago, she blocked my number after sending one text. "I can't believe you'd steal from the company that gave you everything. Don't contact me again." Bradley was even worse. He came to see me at Dennis's apartment before I got kicked out, stood in the doorway like he might catch something. "Mom showed me the evidence, Dad. How could you? How could you embarrass us like this? My boss is asking questions. Meredith's husband wants to know if we need lawyers. You've ruined everything." When I tried to explain, tried to show him it was all lies, he just shook his head. "You're drunk, Dad. You've always got an excuse. I'm done." Winter hit Denver hard that year. By December, I was sleeping in a storage unit I'd rented with the last of my money, keeping my few remaining possessions in boxes labeled with my old life. Kitchen items, work awards, family photos. The facility manager caught me on Christmas Eve, called the police, had me arrested for trespassing. They let me go after 24 hours, but my stuff was gone, auctioned for unpaid rent. I learned the geography of homelessness quickly. The bridge under Spear Boulevard was warmer than the one near the Platte River. The library let you stay until closing if you pretended to read. The soup kitchen at St. Francis served meals at noon and 6, but you had to hear a sermon first. I grew a beard, not by choice, but by circumstance. Lost 30 pounds in 2 months. My hands developed a permanent shake from withdrawal and cold. February brought a blizzard that killed 3 homeless people. I would have been the 4th if Felix hadn't found me. Felix Rodriguez, 60-year-old Vietnam veteran who'd been on the streets 5 years since the VA cut his disability benefits. He dragged me to a heating vent behind an office building, wrapped me in a sleeping bag he'd stolen from a sporting goods store, and stayed awake all night making sure I kept breathing. "You're dying, Tommy," Felix told me that morning as the sun came up over the frozen city. "Not gonna make it another week out here. Mercy House Shelter over on 32nd. They got beds, medical help, caseworkers. They can get you documentation, maybe disability, some kind of assistance. But you gotta go today, while you can still walk." I walked 4 miles through knee-deep snow to reach Mercy House, my feet numb in boots held together with duct tape, coughing blood into a rag that used to be a shirt. The shelter was a converted warehouse, brown brick stained with decades of weather and neglect, windows barred like a prison, but to me it looked like salvation. The lobby was packed with men who'd given up on giving up, slumped in plastic chairs, eyes vacant, waiting for their names to be called like patients in purgatory. The intake process was deliberately humiliating, designed to strip away any remaining dignity. First, they searched my pockets for weapons, drugs, alcohol. Then they sprayed me with delosing powder that burned my skin and made my eyes water. They took my clothes to be washed and gave me a gray jumpsuit that smelled like industrial bleach and other men's desperation. 3 hours. I waited, watching the clock, wondering if they'd run out of beds before they got to me. When Joyce Paulson finally called my name at window 12, I shuffled over like a broken man, because that's what I was. She was typing before I even sat down, going through the motions of another intake, another lost soul with a hard luck story. "Name?" she asked without looking up. "Thomas Wade," I said, my voice rough from the pneumonia growing in my lungs. She typed. "Date of birth?" "March 15th, 1974. She typed. "Place of birth?" "Millbrook, Pennsylvania." That's when everything changed. Her fingers stopped moving. She looked up at me, really looked, like she was seeing a ghost. Then she stood up so fast her chair crashed into the filing cabinet behind her, and she practically ran to the back office. The other men in the waiting room started murmuring. "What's his problem?" one guy asked. "Probably got warrants," another answered. "They're calling the cops." But it wasn't the cops Joyce was calling. She came back with Harrison Blackwood, a man in a navy suit who looked completely out of place in a homeless shelter. He had the bearing of someone with authority, gray hair perfectly trimmed, eyes that missed nothing. He studied my face like he was memorizing every line, every scar, every detail. "Mr. Wade," Blackwood said carefully, his voice carrying an undertone of barely controlled excitement, "I need you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to ask. This might sound strange, but it's critically important. Do you have any memories from before you were adopted? Anything at all from your first 3 years?" "Adopted?" The word hit me like ice water. "What are you talking about? I wasn't adopted. Ruth and Kenneth Wade are my parents." Joyce and Blackwood exchanged a look that made my stomach drop. "Mr. Wade," Joyce said gently, "would you consent to some biometric scans? Fingerprints, retinal scan, just to confirm your identity. It's not for criminal purposes. We have a database of protected persons, people who've been missing, and your name triggered an alert." I was too tired to argue, too sick to care if they were calling the police or immigration or whoever. Joyce led me to a small room with equipment that looked too sophisticated for a homeless shelter. She pressed my fingers onto a digital scanner, had me look into a device that photographed my retinas, even swabbed my cheek for DNA. Each test resulted in a beep, then a green light, then Joyce's face growing paler. "It's him," she whispered to Blackwood, her voice shaking. 99.9% match, Testament Subject 7. He's been alive this whole time." Blackwood immediately pulled out a phone, Not a regular cell phone, but something that looked military grade. "This is Director Blackwood, Department of Displaced Persons. Authorization code 77 Alpha 9. We've located Testament subject Wade. Yes, I'm absolutely certain. Implement containment protocol immediately. No one enters or leaves this facility." I tried to stand, but my legs were weak from malnutrition and shock. "What the hell is Testament? What are you talking about? I just need antibiotics and a bed. I think you've got me confused with someone else." "Mr. Wade," Blackwood said, sitting across from me, his tone urgent but controlled. "In about 10 minutes, this building is going to be surrounded by federal agents. Some of them have been searching for you for 30 years. Others were hoping you'd never be found. Your life as Thomas Wade ends today, one way or another. But before they get here, you need to understand who you really are." Joyce returned with a thick manila folder stamped with red letters. "Classified. Testament Program. Subject. 7. Presumed deceased 1977. She set it on the table between us like it was radioactive. Inside were photographs, medical records, government documents, all describing someone named Michael Kessler, born in a facility called Testament Research Institute to a Dr. Diana Kessler, and a father whose name was blacked out with marker so thick it bled through 3 pages. "This can't be real," I said, staring at a photograph of an infant with my exact birthmark, my unusual eye color, even the slight asymmetry in my ears that Bridget used to tease me about. "Mr. Wade," Blackwood said, leaning forward, "your birth mother died getting you out of that facility. She saved your life. And now, 30 years later, you've walked right into our hands. The question is, what do we do with you now?" Blackwood opened the classified folder and spread its contents across the table like he was dealing cards that would determine my fate. The first document was a birth certificate for Michael Kessler, born January 8, 1974, not March 15th like I'd celebrated my whole life. The mother was listed as Dr. Diana Kessler, biochemist, age 28. The father's name was completely redacted, but his identification number was visible. Testament Prime 003. "Your mother was brilliant," Blackwood began, pulling out a photograph of a young woman in a lab coat, dark hair pulled back, eyes that looked exactly like mine. "Diana Kessler graduated MIT at 19, had her doctorate in biochemistry by 23. The government recruited her for a classified program in 1970, told her she'd be curing genetic diseases, eliminating birth defects, saving lives. What they didn't tell her was that the Department of Defense was running the program." Joyce pulled out another document, this one describing the Testament program's true objectives: creating genetically enhanced individuals for military and intelligence applications. Enhanced strength, accelerated healing, increased cognitive function, resistance to disease and toxins. 7 subjects were created between 1973 and 1977. 6 died before their first birthday. Only subject 7 survived. "You were the success," Blackwood said, watching my face carefully. "Every enhancement worked. Your DNA was perfect, a 1 in a billion combination of your mother's genius-level intelligence markers and your father's physical attributes. But when Diana discovered the military plan to replicate you, to create an army of enhanced soldiers using your genetic template, she made a decision." The next document was a security report from November 15, 1977. Testament Research Institute, catastrophic fire, 2 confirmed deaths, 1 missing child, all research destroyed. But the real story was in Diana's own handwriting, a letter she'd hidden with the family that would become my parents. "If you're reading this," Joyce read aloud, "then my son Michael is safe and I am gone. The people I worked for are monsters who would turn children into weapons. I've destroyed everything, all the research, all the samples, everything except Michael himself. Please raise him as your own. Never let him know what he is. The adoption papers are perfect forgeries. His new name is Thomas Wade. Let him live a normal life. It's the only gift I can give him." My hands were shaking as I looked at the photographs, the burning building, Diana Kessler's obituary calling her death a tragic accident. A small article about an orphaned child placed with a family in Pennsylvania. Ruth and Kenneth Wade, unable to have children of their own, suddenly blessed with a 3-year-old son who needed a home. But here's where it gets complicated, Blackwood continued, pulling out recent documents. The Testament program was never officially terminated. Elements within the government have been searching for you ever since. Some want to study you for medical breakthroughs. Others want to weaponize your genetics. And in the last decade, private defense contractors have been trying to restart the program. That's when he showed me the photograph that changed everything. Roland Hutchinson, shaking hands with General Morrison, former Testament program director, at a defense conference in 2018. Another photo of Roland's company, Hutchinson Industries, acquiring a biotech firm that specialized in genetic research. Contract proposals for something called Testament Revival Initiative. Roland Hutchinson has been looking for you, Joyce said quietly. Not Thomas Wade specifically, but Testament Subject 7. He spent $40 million trying to locate surviving research, genetic samples, anything from the original program. He has no idea his former logistics manager is the very thing he's been searching for. That's impossible, I said, but even as the words left my mouth, pieces were falling into place. How I never got sick, not even when my entire family had the flu. How I could work 18-hour days without fatigue. How I could see patterns in supply chains that others missed, optimize routes in my head that computers took hours to calculate. How my body healed faster than it should. How I'd survived on the streets when men half my age had frozen to death. Your blood, your DNA, even your bone marrow, Blackwood explained. They contain the keys to the most successful genetic enhancement in history. Foreign governments would pay billions for a sample. Pharmaceutical companies would kill for the chance to study you. And Roland Hutchinson, the man who destroyed your life, would become the most powerful defense contractor in history if he possessed you. So what now? I asked, the weight of 30 years of lies crushing down on me. You lock me in some lab, turn me into a guinea pig? No, Blackwood said, surprising me. Diana Kessler died to give you freedom of choice. We're honoring that. You have 3 options. 1, we give you a new identity, a new life somewhere far from here. Enough money to disappear forever. 2, you work with us. Let our medical team study your genetics for humanitarian purposes only. Help save lives like your mother intended. Or 3, and I don't recommend this, you go back to your old life and pretend this never happened. There's a 4th option, I said, my mind working faster than it had in months, the fog of alcohol and despair lifting as my enhanced brain kicked into gear. Roland thinks Thomas Wade is dead, right? But what if someone else showed up? Someone with the right credentials, the right background, someone who could get close to his Testament research? Blackwood's eyes widened. You're talking about going undercover in the organization of the man who ruined you. I'm talking about justice, I said, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Purpose. The transformation took 6 months. The Department of Displaced Persons officially declared Thomas Wade dead, a John Doe pulled from the South Platte River, identified through dental records that Joyce's team carefully fabricated. Bridget played the grieving widow perfectly at the memorial service, even shed a few tears while Roland held her hand. My children stood at my grave, Meredith sobbing into her husband's shoulder, Bradley stone-faced but shaking. They buried an empty casket while I watched from a car parked across the cemetery, already 40 pounds heavier, my hair dyed black, wearing contact lenses that changed my eye color. I became Martin Cross, a defense logistics consultant with an impressive but carefully crafted background. Harvard MBA, 10 years with a private military contractor in Virginia, specializing in supply chain optimization for sensitive materials. The kind of resume that would make Roland Hutchinson salivate. Blackwood's team inserted me into the system through a Department of Defense connection who owed them favors. Within 3 weeks, I was sitting in Roland's office, the same office where he'd fired Thomas Wade. interviewing for a position overseeing his classified research transportation network. "Martin, your experience is exactly what we need," Roland said, barely looking up from my fabricated credentials. "We're moving sensitive biological materials, research specimens that require special handling. The previous manager was incompetent, drank himself to death from what I heard. Pathetic, really. Left his family in shambles." I smiled and nodded, fighting the urge to reach across that mahogany desk and show him exactly what Testament Subject 7 was capable of. But I had a longer game to play. Within 2 months, I had access to Roland's entire Testament revival initiative. He was closer than anyone realized, had recovered 60% of the original research through black market dealers and corrupt government officials. His scientists were 3 years from creating their first enhanced subject. The medical team studying my genetics made breakthroughs that seemed like miracles. Dr. Patricia Nguyen, the lead geneticist, discovered that my enhanced DNA could be used to treat muscular dystrophy, ALS, and a dozen other genetic disorders. "Your mother wasn't trying to create a weapon," she told me during one of our sessions. "She was trying to eliminate human suffering. The military corrupted her vision, but the original intent, the pure science, it could save millions of lives." I provided weekly intelligence to Blackwood about Roland's operations. Every shipment of illegal genetic material, every bribe to foreign officials, every violation of international bioethics treaties. We built a case that would destroy him completely, but I wanted something more. I wanted him to know who brought him down. The hardest part was staying away from my family. I sent anonymous packages to both my children with evidence of their mother's deception. Bank records showing Roland's payments to Bridget during their affair. Emails between them planning my termination. Recordings from security cameras proving I was in my office during the times they claimed I was embezzling. Meredith called the number I'd included, a burner phone I kept just for her. "Dad?" she sobbed when I answered. "Oh my God, Dad, we know everything." Mom admitted it all when we confronted her. "Bradley's here too. We're so sorry. Where are you? Please come home." "I can't come back, sweetheart," I told them, my voice disguised, but my love undisguised. "But know that I never stole anything, never betrayed anyone. I love you both more than life itself. Take care of each other. Trust your instincts about people. And remember that sometimes the most dangerous enemies come dressed as friends." My mother's call was even harder. Ruth Wade was declining rapidly in her nursing home, and the FBI had told her I was dead. "Tommy," she cried when she heard my voice, "I knew you weren't gone. A mother knows. But Tommy, they gave me a letter from someone named Diana. She said you were special, that you were born to change the world. Why didn't you tell me you were adopted?" "Because you're my real mother," I said firmly. "You and Dad saved me, raised me, loved me when my birth mother couldn't. Biology doesn't matter. Love matters. You gave me everything that made me human." The end came on a Thursday. Federal agents raided Hutchinson Industries with warrants for everything. Roland was arrested in his office, the same office where he'd destroyed Thomas Wade, charged with 37 counts of illegal genetic trafficking, bioweapons development, and conspiracy. Bridget was named as a co-conspirator for her role in hiding assets. She lost everything in asset forfeiture: the house, the cars, the jewelry Roland had bought her with blood money. I was there when they let him out in handcuffs, standing in the crowd of employees watching their boss's empire crumble. He looked right at me, Martin Cross, the trusted consultant who'd been feeding information to the feds for months. For just a second, I let him see it in my eyes, let him see Thomas Wade looking back at him. The recognition hit him like a physical blow. His face went white, his knees buckled, and he had to be held up by the agents. Felix, the veteran who saved my life that freezing night under the bridge, now lives in a small apartment in Denver. Rent paid by an anonymous benefactor, medical care covered, dignity restored. Mercy House Shelter received a $10 million donation from an offshore account, enough to expand their medical services and add 100 beds. Joyce Paulson still works there, still saves lives, still looks for the lost and forgotten. Dr. Diana Kessler's research, purified of its military applications, has yielded treatments that have saved thousands of lives already. Children with genetic disorders that would have killed them before their 5th birthday are living normal lives. Veterans with traumatic brain injuries are recovering functions doctors said were gone forever. My blood, my genetics, my mother's sacrifice, they all meant something in the end. I remain Martin Cross in the world, traveling between research facilities, coordinating the legitimate transportation of medical breakthroughs derived from my genetics. But sometimes late at night I remember being Thomas Wade, remember having a family, a home, a life built on 25 years of honest work. Roland and Bridget took that from me, but they gave me something else. Purpose. The lesson is simple but profound. Sometimes you have to lose everything to discover who you really are. Thomas Wade was destroyed by betrayal, crushed by cruelty, left to die in the cold. But from that destruction came truth. I learned I was never ordinary, never just another warehouse manager, pushing papers and managing schedules. I was Diana Kessler's son, Testament Subject 7. A living medical miracle who could save lives my mother could only dream of saving. Every morning, I wake up in my secure apartment, look out at the Denver skyline and think about the journey. From a cardboard box leaving Hutchinson Industries to a cardboard box under a bridge. From Thomas Wade to nobody, to Michael Kessler to Martin Cross. Each identity stripped something away until only the truth remained. We are not our names, our jobs, our possessions, or even our families. We are our choices, our actions, the lives we touch, the changes we make. Roland Hutchinson sits in federal prison now, 70 years to serve, his empire divided among victims of his genetic crimes. Bridget lives with her sister in Nebraska, working as a cashier, all her assets seized, her children refusing to speak to her. And somewhere in the mountains of Colorado, there's a grave marked Thomas Wade, 1974-2024, husband and father. It's empty, but the man it represents was always empty, a shell hiding something extraordinary. My name is Martin Cross now, but I'm also Michael Kessler, and I was once Thomas Wade. I'm the homeless man who survived, the experiment who escaped, the victim who became the victor. And if you're watching this, if you've heard my story, remember this. Your lowest moment might be the doorway to your true purpose. The people who destroy you might be giving you the gift of resurrection. And sometimes, just sometimes, justice comes dressed as a homeless man walking into a shelter, carrying 30 years of secrets and the power to change the world. Thank you for watching this story. If it moved you, if it made you think about the hidden strengths inside yourself, about the possibility of redemption even in the darkest moments, then please like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below about a time when losing everything led you to find something better, when failure became the foundation for your greatest success. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more incredible true stories of transformation, justice, and the extraordinary hidden in the ordinary. Remember, every person you pass on the street has a story, and sometimes the most powerful ones belong to those who seem to have nothing left to lose.